I know it's a little overcast and rainy, but did you notice the beautiful yellow flowers as you drove? and the yellow flowers that are on our vines out here. I mean, there was like 3 of them last Friday. You know, and they bring in. It's too wet right now, but they bring in these beautiful black butterflies. I'm not sure what they're called, but the whole back area last Thursday before I left was just filled with these butterflies and bees. And then in a few weeks, what happens is these kind of die out, and then the orange trumpet vines will start blooming, and they attract the hummingbirds. So I really think that March might be the most colorful month here in our center in a lot of ways. Well, my topic this morning is spring cleaning. And most of you know I was born and raised in Kansas City, Missouri, and our winters could be absolutely brutal. And usually we were unable to open our windows from about mid-November until sometime late March. But as soon as those March winds began to calm and the weather was still a little bit crisp, my mother would call my 2 younger sisters and me to help with our annual spring cleaning ritual. And as a kid, I both hated and I loved this ritual. I hated it because it was really hard work. Mom would say, it's time to spring clean, and then she'd have to go look for us, because we all scatter. But after a snowy winter of being cooped up, unable to go out and play mostly because of the weather, our cleaning ritual really heralded the coming of spring. And the month of March offered a bit of a freedom and a freshness that was unlike any other month in the Midwest. So even if the work was hard, there was an anticipation of change that came with the cleaning that made it so much easier to swallow. And depending upon our age and ability, I was the oldest, I had 2 younger sisters, the 3 of us would be given our specific chores. We would clean the winter grime off the windows inside and out, brush cobwebs from ceilings and corners, wax and polish wooden floors, and clean out closets to make space for our spring and summer clothes that were tucked in boxes underneath our bed. And I remember how good it felt to be able to open the windows and let that freshness in. I remember putting the darker, heavier winter clothes away and hanging up our lighter and more brightly colored skirts and blouses, and it felt so good. So as spring approaches this year, and we do our spring cleaning, let's take the idea of spring cleaning into the realm of the metaphysical and consider what we might do if we were to spring clean our heads, our hearts, and our souls. So as I said, one of the first actions we took to spring clean was to brush the cobwebs from the corners of the walls and the ceilings and around the windows, and that prepared the surfaces for cleaning. So as we begin our mental and spiritual spring cleaning, let's begin to brush away our old and dusty beliefs. Our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, tells us that our hidden beliefs and deep-seated convictions inevitably outpicture and reflect themselves in our experience, exactly what Judy was reading this morning, both in the physical condition of our bodies and in the larger world of affairs. So where are those cobwebs of old ideas that are hanging around in our subconscious? When we become aware of them, then we can consciously choose to brush them out so that we have a clean slate that we can fill with new ideas and beliefs that are in alignment with the truth of who and what we are. Searching our beliefs takes time and it takes study because a lot of these beliefs have never been put into a language. Frequently, we find that something in our early life established a particular belief, and we've been operating from it ever since. In our mental cleaning, we might ask ourselves, what are some of the beliefs from my childhood that might still be operating in my life? What images have I formed that don't serve me anymore, that come from that past? Is there an experience in my life that's shaken my confidence? And how are these dusty beliefs affecting me today? I've told you my story before, but when I was a little girl, probably I think it was either 2nd or 3rd grade, Each student had to stand in front of our class and give a 3-minute talk. I was scared to death. I was so scared that I could hardly talk. And I shook so badly that you could see my skirt moving, even from the back of the row. And several weeks later, the teacher was talking about the speeches that we had given, and she laughed and said, I remember one student who shook so badly that we could all see it. And the other students giggled, and I turned beet red because I knew, and they knew, she was talking about me. In looking back, I realized what an awful thing it was for that teacher to make fun of her students. Had she given me encouragement, a little bit of extra help and compassion, rather than ridicule, I would have been able to try it again. But as it turned out, from that point forward, I couldn't stand in talk in front of a group. I knew I would blow the talk and I'd be ridiculed for it. And that's why when I was in ministerial school, I told all of my homiletic and speech teachers that I wasn't going to be a pulpit minister. I had convinced myself that I couldn't speak in front of groups, and my ministry would be about serving in a capacity behind the scenes. It wasn't until one of my teachers, Dr. Mark Vieira, one of the things he said was, tell them what you know, Donna. Tell them what you know. But all through that senior year, he gave us compassion and encouragement and to move beyond our fears. And so I could remember that experience and was able to see how it was affecting me in the present moment. And so once the old experience came to light, I could forgive myself and my third grade teacher. And from that point, the old cobweb was removed. And finally, to my amazement, I found that I really liked speaking to groups. The Apostle Paul tells us to be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. And I believe that the perfect will of God is that which serves our highest and best good. God would not have a will for us that wasn't what we wanted, ultimately. So when the cobwebs of past beliefs are dusted from the cubbyholes of our minds, then we become free to prove the good, acceptable, and perfect will of God through us, through our new beliefs that are in alignment with the truth of who we are. So that's going to be our assignment for our spring cleaning. When we are thinking less of others, less of ourselves, less of the world, let's dust away anything that is not in alignment with the God qualities of love, truth, beauty, joy, harmony, peace, so that our spiritual house can reflect those qualities through us. Well, after a season of rain and snow, another of our spring cleaning tasks was to wash the windows inside and out, so that our view of the world was clear and beautiful. I read a story, I probably told you this, but I read a story about a woman who watched as a young couple moved in next door to her. First time the young woman hung up her wash, the woman commented to her husband at breakfast, that laundry's not very clean. She doesn't know how to wash correctly. Perhaps she needs another laundry soap. Husband looked on but remained silent, and every time her new neighbor would hang out the wash, the woman would make the same comment. And about a month later, or 2 months later, the woman was surprised to see nice clean wash on the line, and said to her husband, look, she's learned how to wash correctly. I wonder what she did. And her husband said, I got up early and washed the windows. And so it is with life. So it is with life. If the window through which we look is full of criticisms, regrets, grudges, resentments, then that's going to be our experience. You know, the eyes are considered by the poets to be the windows to the soul. So in our spiritual spring cleaning, let's make a conscious choice to see everything through the eyes of love, of compassion, and of joy. You know, one of my favorite quotes is from French novelist Marcel Proust, who tells us the voyage of discovery is not in seeking new landscape, but in having new eyes. You know, many of you knew our beloved Reverend Bob Bailey. Great man, great teacher, great minister. And I would often hear him say, look for the good and praise it. And he lived by that. And I've used that statement often from him when I'm grappling with something that is not readily, apparently good. to look for the good and praise it. Ernest Holmes tells us, let us merge with the stream of life, becoming one with everything that lives, freely giving, asking nothing in return, expecting neither recognition nor compensation other than the joy of the giving. And we will find an expansion of the self which we had never dreamed possible. We will find that the gifts which we had so long and earnestly sought after are already in our possession. Because, we see the world. I've heard this from many different sources. We see the world not as it is, but as we are. So when we consciously choose to see life as beautiful, as sacred, as an incredible ministry, when we consciously choose to look for the good and praise it, then life will gladly give us all that we choose to see. The home where I grew up had wood floors. So part of our spring cleaning project was to polish the floors. And I remember those times. We used paste wax, and we got down on our hands and knees and worked it into the wood. Oh, Mary's going like this. Been there, done that. but then we would polish it until it glistened, It was hard work, but when we finished, there was a beautiful shine to the wood, and the luster would last almost all year with just a few little touch-ups. So the flooring is the foundation of our home. So let's consider our spirituality, the flooring of our foundation, of our life. And if it is to serve us well, then we must keep it polished through daily practices of meditation, affirmations, and prayer. And I would suggest that if you don't have a designated place and time for spiritual practice, consider doing so. We don't have to spend hours at it, but our consciousness does shift if we spend a few minutes reading something spiritual, saying an affirmative prayer for ourselves and others, and ending with giving thanks for the day that's about to begin. And also the foundation of any building or home is the load-bearing portion of it. Think of that. It's the load-bearing portion. When we have a strong spiritual foundation, then we have the capacity to weather any storm, to bear any load. We have the ability to see beyond appearances to the spiritual truth and to bring that truth into manifestation. And the fun part of spring cleaning in my childhood was to put away our dark and heavy winter clothes and bring out the lighter and brighter garments, and if there was enough money, maybe get a couple of new ones. So in our spiritual spring cleaning, let's consider those colorful and lighter garments as the essence of our creativity. We've cleaned out the cobwebs of old beliefs, our spiritual foundation, and now polished our spiritual foundation, and now it's time that we present this renewed mind to the world. Ernest Holmes tells us, when life created us, it gave us two great endowments of God, the two highest gifts of heaven, love and creativity. Love, so that we may have confidence in life, a sense of security, and peace and joy in living. Creativity, so that we can really live as persons and express ourselves individually. So I like to think of it that our creativity, our expression, is the color we give to God. With newfound enthusiasm, we can create a new world for ourselves. We can literally pick up a paintbrush and create a piece of artwork. Gail Creamer next door, just about 6 or 8 months ago, started painting for the very first time. And she's bringing in remarkable works to show us. She never knew that she had that talent. But it took just, I see how that's done. I'm going to try it. So we could do that, painting or any kind of an outlet. Find one and do it. Find one and do it. Just something that's a little bit different that takes you into that sense of creativity. Take a class. Join an organization. Volunteer in an area that's interesting to you. In fact, I'm going to ask everybody in 2 weeks, on March 22nd, to stay after, like we're doing today with the annual meeting, because many of you filled out those pledge campaigns, not just your pledge, but also gave us ideas that you would like to see happen in the church. So we're going to go over those and add some more and see if we can't see if we can't choose 2 or 3 projects that will bring out our creativity and that will do something fun for our church. Our spiritual practices and releasing old beliefs create an inlet for God. And so our creativity is God's outlet through us. Ernest Holmes says that God is colorful. He says, how can that which has painted nature with such a lavish brush be anything but colorful? All you have to do is go outside and say, yeah. And we are colorful beings. Look around. Look at the uniqueness of each and every one of us. And how are we expressing that? How are we at a very personal level expressing the transcendent God self that we are? Our new mental wardrobe manifests from the intentions and visions that we set. So let's fill our creative closet with new and colorful ideas that come to fruition through our actions. Ernest Holmes tells us, you are united with all. You are one with the eternal light itself. The presence of Spirit within you blesses everyone you meet, tends to heal everything you touch, brings gladness into the life of everyone you contact. Therefore, you are a blessing to yourself, to humankind, and to the day in which you live. So, let's dust away the cobwebs of those beliefs that don't serve us. Let's polish our spiritual floor, the foundation upon which we stand. Let's see ourselves as God's paintbrush, and let's color the world with our creativity, our joy, and our enthusiasm. And as we awaken to the magnificence of who we are, let's take in that deep breath of spring and know that we truly are a blessing to ourselves, to humankind, and to the day in which we live. Thank you. Namaste. Thank you.